Hi folks, I'm Geek here. Unfortunately, after about the 26-minute mark, we lose audio in this video. I have no idea why. Sorry for the inconvenience. But enjoy what we did get recorded, please. Thank you.
All right, well, hey DerbyCon. Hey. Hi, Internet. Hi. So for those of you who are joining late on the stream or watching on the telly up in your rooms, there's been some pretty heavy demo fail. So there's going to be part of this lab, part of this talk that won't work as expected, but in the interest of just moving on, over 4/5 of the demos will work. So we're just going to move and get going. So we're here to talk about instant response. And one of the things that I think that we're all becoming very painfully aware as defenders is just how fast the attacks are taking place. I don't know if you folks read the talk that was, or read the paper in Wired about the NotPetya attack. Did you guys, any takers on what the fastest worldwide infection rate was for a company? 45 seconds was actually lower. 17 seconds. So we got to start moving a lot faster. So what we're going to be talking about are things that you can do using built-in components of Windows that allow you to do all kinds of interesting and fun shenanigans and really will frustrate the attackers. So what we're going to be covering is a series of PowerShell scripts and tools that Josh and I have made. And basically, each three of these are going to be a section that we cover. And all of them should help you make your network significantly more hostile to the bad guys without costing you a thin dime. This is all based off of components that every Windows machine has. We're using built-in API, and we're just using them in novel and interesting ways. So, hi, my name's Mick, and this was actually at my last DerbyCon talk. So, see you, Hyatt, but I'm digging the new digs. And when I'm not giving talks at DerbyCon, I'm the managing partner at InfoSec Innovations, and what we do is exotic defense. So basically, if you have a network where you want every host, you want every firewall, you want every router to be some sort of sensor, you can do that. Basically, if you're doing defense right, you're a spider sitting in the center of a web, and anything that the attackers do will be detectable, and you're going to be able to pounce, either in an automated fashion or a more focused incident response fashion. So that's what we like to do. And when I'm not doing that, I teach for SANS. I teach both 504 and 555. So 504 is the Hacker Techniques and Incident Response class, and 555 is the Tactical SIM Analytics class. Both are a ton of fun. And you can follow me on Twitter, where I'll be ranting and raving about who knows what, most recently about that little tiny grain of rice-sized chip that everybody said, oh, the sky's falling. It's not. But hint, hint, you know, in a couple days, like, if you want to buy some micro serve stuff off of on eBay, you're probably going to get a really good deal.
Hey guys, I'm Josh. I never thought I would get to present to a unicorn, so that's really awesome. Thank you for that. So I'm new to SANS. I teach Sec 530, which is the new Defensible Security Architecture class. And are any of you guys red teamers in the room? Oh, cool, quite a few. I hope you leave today just a little bit upset. And I mean that with as much love as possible. What I've been doing in my spare time is research to make your jobs as hard as possible. And you guys have done, honestly, a fantastic job with automation with PowerShell. And I think red teamers and adversaries do a great job in that post-exploitation, they're using the tools that exist on the system, and they're automating as much of attacks as they can. And, you know, post-exploitation, to Mick's point, happens like that. As defenders, what we're trying to do is build our tool set to match that rate of attack and defense. If you guys want to follow me on Twitter or GitHub, JCJohnson34, a lot of the tools we'll talk about aren't really fully developed yet. We really need your help. So please, if you're interested, get in touch with us, and we'd love to keep working on these tools with you.
So one thing that I find really weird is you have a lot of red teamers giving talks on how to do security, and you hear them say defending is hard and that, you know, the attackers have the advantage. They only need one way in. And while that's true, yeah, you know what though? Defending is a lot of fun because I consider myself a bit above average as a pen tester, but I've never encountered a network where I didn't have some way of getting in. Attacking's easy. Defense is actually really pretty badass if you do it right. And so what we're going to be spending over the next couple minutes is some of the late-breaking testing and ideas that we've been kicking around over the past couple months to make life really miserable for pen testers and attackers alike. Now, one of the things we want to talk about is invoke network lockdown. Now, you probably, how many people were at the keynote where John Strand and Ed Scotus and Hacks for Pancakes were all together? Right? When John said you need to start using a host-based firewall, there was one person who went, woo! That was me. And the reason why? They work. They work really freaking well. And so what we're going to do is show you some interesting things that you can do that use the default Windows firewall, make some very minor tweaks to them, and give you awesome telemetry in terms of what the attackers are doing, but also make it so that your systems will make life just miserable for the bad guys. So one of the things we're going to talk about are just the host-based firewalls that come with Windows. Now, when Windows Firewall was first released for Windows XP, it was a bit of a joke. And I hate to say it, but Microsoft kind of missed the ball on that one. So the Windows XP firewall was really weak and really bad. The cool thing is, though, starting with Vista, they rebuilt the Windows firewall system and they added all kinds of cool new features that XP didn't have, such as outbound filtering, which, you know, that's kind of nifty. But they also added some other things that almost nobody is aware of. I am shocked and a little embarrassed to admit that less than a year ago, I didn't know that Windows Firewall can actually instantiate IPsec communications from point to point. So it's pretty awesome when you start using some of these things in creative ways. So when you have your typical networks, the attackers, you know, they know that there's insecure protocols and machines are chatting to one another in really weak ways. Oh no, is that an ice coming our way? Okay, well, let's get the icing over with. Yeah, okay. Yeah, Josh is a first-time presenter here, and he was like, "Oh, he's only got one. Somehow I've dodged a bullet." Not so fast, my friend. No, come here. It's so warm. It is so warm. Yeah, you have to do this. All right, salute. Oh!
I'm never presenting here again.
I want to know what that says about me that I keep coming back. Oh. All right, so typical networks. Right, there's no transition, right? You just got to jump right back in. So typical networks, the attackers know that machines are chatting with one another, and that's a problem because they can hop on the network, and now they're able to start doing all kinds of fun and interesting stuff on the network. And you know, right away they start attacking other machines, and they start doing all these elite hacks, all kinds of cool stuff to compromise your networks, and doing all sorts of things like, you know, pwning your machines, and all they're doing is stuff like PS exec. Right? How many people here have run PS exec in your networks or at home or something like that? Okay, keep your hand up if you felt that that was a little disappointingly easy, right? Yeah. So here's the deal. You want to know how to stop that? Windows Firewall. You can't hack what you can't interact with. So when you have a Windows host firewall, all of a sudden PS exec, no bueno, because it can't interact. Now, a lot of organizations say, but Mick, how do we do this? We can't put host firewalls everywhere. Yeah, you can. Windows firewalls can be pushed out via GPO. And the other cool bit is, when do you have workstations chatting to one another over 445? Workstation to workstation traffic is one of the best and easiest detects that you can do. Please, please, please write that down. Add that to your homework for when you go to your day job on Monday. Adrian, I would really appreciate it if you excised that from the presentation, because I charge $450 an hour to give that detect. So with the Windows firewall, all of a sudden you stop that attack dead. And it's awesome. And what's even better is Windows Firewall has logging. What you can do is log potential connection attempts to ports and use that as a honeyport. One of my favorite things to do is to just periodically look through the Nmap top 1,000 ports and then use that as some honeyports. What I'll do, I will, excuse me, that's some ice coming up. Not good. I just had to share. Misery loves company. What you can do is have logging on a blocked port. I want to be very clear about this. Block port. A lot of times I go to organizations and I say, hey guys, we're going to set up honeyports, and they go, hacker's going to get into that honeyport. You know what? Honeyport's not even running. Anybody who just even tries to connect to the honeyport, busted. So that's what you need to start doing. Just twisting the tools that you have a little bit differently, and you're going to start seeing some pretty magical things pretty quickly. So once they're busted, bad guys' game plan is flipped on its ear, and they're so used to the same old that they're not going to know what to do. You're going to be pushing them off their normal stride, which makes your other detects easier because they're making mistakes. So my Kali Linux VM is dead. I'm going to double check on that. Let's see here. We're going to give this a rip, but we may be out. I had a VM fail. Yep, the NIC is dead, so we're just going to kill that. Sorry. What I'll do is I'll do a webinar where I show how that works. But basically, what you can do within Windows Firewall, let's do this a slightly different approach. If you're in your Windows control panel and you go into the Windows Firewall Defender and go under Advanced Settings right here, you can actually create IPsec rules, and there's a connection security rules. And what you can do here is actually set it up so that you have IPsec instantiated between two different hosts or even host ranges. And the beautiful part about this is it doesn't matter what the protocol is. I actually have some clients that work in the industrial control supply or industrial ICS type stuff. Raise your hand if you're in the ICS or energy distribution. Yep. So you guys got some pretty freaky networks, stuff like Modbus. I even know some production systems that are still running Telnet. You know what's cool about that? Put IPsec tunneling around it. Nobody can see your login information. So IPsec all the things. Now, let me show you just how easy it is to enable IPsec. Okay, so we got to get into our PowerShell execution bypass mode. And now we're going to go ahead and invoke network lockdown. And now the IPsec rules are enabled. And the cool thing is now when we hop over to our host and do likewise, okay, so now I'm on my host. I have to enable the same setting. Okay, now we've got IPsec rules running on both hosts. Now, let's see if this works. We'll find out. What you can do is everything should just work as normal. Here, let me bring this up to the top. So net use. All right, so now I was able to do a net use, right? Did that look any different? No. You know why? Because Windows Firewall took care of all the crypto for us. If I had my Kali Linux box sitting up here and working, what I would do is point to the Kali Linux box and it wouldn't be able to instantiate. Why? Because that Kali box could not do the authentication against those ports opening up. It kills man in the middle dead. Completely dead. And I don't care what kind of man in the middle they're doing, ARP cache poisoning, DNS poisoning, whatever. Kills it dead. Deploy it. Oh, and by the way, it can be pushed out via GPO. You can put user-specific firewall rules. So your users can only go to sites and parts of the network that they're allowed to go to. So this is amazing stuff. Over the next couple weeks and months, Josh and I are going to be giving you guys plenty of cool resources on how to do this super easy. Believe it or not, that command, as easy as that was to run, this invoke network lockdown, that's actually the hard way. Normally, it's going to be something that happens at boot time. So you're going to have fun. We're going to make secure easy. All right. So one thing that a lot of people, I've been doing InfoSec for quite some time, and one of the things that I find really problematic is that people say, but Mick, if we start putting in host-based firewall rules, we're going to break everything, and the line of business is going to be super angry, and we're going to be out of a job. No, have some faith. What we're going to do for you is we've got this cool tool that Josh made that turns your NIC into learn mode, and it will log the network connections that happen. And the magic of this is that literally you don't need a SIM. You don't need NetFlow. You don't need nothing other than this script to run. And then when it's run, you now have a log of all the connections that took place for how long that system's been going. And here's the beauty of it. Anything that gets set up, you can just automatically whitelist and then over time come back and clean up the little stragglers. So you know what the magic is? I have now 4 times in my career deployed a similar concept, except we used a SIM. We were trying to be fancy. I did this. You know how many users noticed that we did that? goose egg. Not a single complaint, not a single ticket, because if there was any traffic over, 3 months, 1 month, 6 months, whatever the time window was, we just whitelisted it and allowed it to go on. And then every week we went back and culled that list. Now, here's the magic of this. We also have a helper script that will cull these firewall logs and help set up the IPsec tunnels for you. So now, giddy up. A lot of people complain, Mick, these logs are long. Yeah, they are. You know what? You're not reading them. The scripts are. Let them do all the work. So, trying to send me an exploit? Nope. It's just that simple, folks. You can't hack what you can't interact with. Now, man in the middle is a really big problem in our industry that we got to talk about. And there are tons of insecure protocols. And again, unfortunately, the Kali box died, but I would be able to show you how it looks when you set up a relay. Setting up a relay literally is a one-liner, and you can just start listening in on the traffic. So man in the middle, simple, easy, just say no to it. Do IPsec tunneling, and the bad guys can't do anything about it. So remember, learn mode, IPsec tunneling for you, and the work's already done. My goal and Josh's goal is by this time next year, there's going to be way more IPsec networking going on in Windows environments. The cool thing about it is, as I just showed you with that netuse command, completely transparent to the user. You know who it's not transparent to? The attackers, because all they see is random gibberish, if that. A lot of times they're not even going to be able to instantiate the man in the middle. So this is awesome win. Again, you can't get man in the middle attacked if attackers can't send packets. So with that, I want to kick it over to Josh, and he's going to talk about pause process.
Was anyone here during Mick's talk on pause process last year? Cool. So that inspired me to start using this tool. So what pause process is, Mick wrote this tool, and what it does is it allows you to attach a built-in Windows debugger to a running process. And when you do that, the process execution is just completely halted. And the debugger has full control. If it's a shell that an attacker has, it's completely useless to them at that point. They can't interact with it. They can't do anything until we unpause that process. So when I first saw pause process, it inspired me to write a tool. And it was kind of a weird use case. Mick was kind of surprised by this, but what we did was we wrote a tool, and it watched process invocation. And whenever new processes were created, if the process was Internet Explorer, it went and looked at what the parent process was. And if the parent process was Outlook.exe, that means that we know that the user has clicked a link in an email, Outlook has spawned a child process of Internet Explorer. So what I did was I wrote this tool, and it scraped out the command line of the Internet Explorer process invocation. And what that allowed us to do was pop up a message to the user. So we'd pause Internet Explorer, we'd pop a message to the user and say, hey, this is the URL that you're actually going to. Did you mean to go here? And if it's a phishing email, the user's like, blah, blah, blah.ru. No, I thought I was going to Amazon. And sure enough, we saw quite a bit of impact here with users just not getting phished anymore, because now they're able to get just a second chance. And again, we put some other logic in there so that we would call a Google Safe Browsing API at the same time, check to see if the site's malicious, block it completely if it is. But we just gave the user another chance. And that conversation with Mick and I spawned some more conversation, and we're coming out with this idea it's almost like EDR, but it gives us the ability to natively, just using PowerShell, pause processes on demand. So if you think about it, when you look at processes on a Windows system, you'll see things like this, and you'll see Notepad. And is that normal? Maybe. Well, what if Notepad is running a system? What if Notepad is beaconing out to the internet every 5 seconds? Those are completely abnormal situations. We want to be able to take action on that immediately. And I think pause process is the perfect way to do that. So again, if you see Notepad running as system, it could be that an attacker has a interpreter shell, spawned a Notepad as system, and then migrated into that process so they don't lose their shell. We went through a bunch of different scenarios, and we kind of outlined, well, here's everything we can do with PowerShell just running on the system, watching process invocation, watching network events, watching sysmon logs. Does anyone run sysmon? Awesome, I see a ton of hands. That's excellent. So what we're doing here is we're pulling all of those different data points, and we're making decisions on if we want to pause processes or not. So let me show you an example of Honey document access. So one thing we didn't mention is that honeyport, the whole honeyport process, we actually wrote a script for this, and the honeyport script will spin up a bunch of different deception techniques on every host. So you blow this script out to all your machines, it'll spin up honeyports on each one, and it'll also do things like this. It'll create a honey directory.